Good morning from the kitchen table. It's the 9th day of September 2025. Very important to get that right. You're very welcome back. I'm a farmer with cows and a very, very rough, ignorant type of a person, as you know. I don't apologise to anyone. Now, we have the presidential elections coming up, and I want to let you know what the Constitution says, because you have RTE and all these talking, and no one says, what does the Constitution say? Now, bear in mind, for the Irish Parliament, the Dáil, you just put down a deposit or you get a number of signatures and you can run. And the same for councils, county councils. But for the president, you cannot have a situation where the list is so long that each ballot paper would be over a mile or 1.5 kilometres in length. That is not practical, and that would not be democratic either. So there has to be some type of check and balances to try and bring a degree of democracy to it, and I think the Constitution does that as best it can. So there's a whole paragraph dedicated to the President, Article 12. There shall be a President of Ireland. Uachtarán na hÉireann. Cannot be a farmer with cows. To get you laughing. No, that's not there. There shall be a President of Ireland, Uachtarán na hÉireann, hereon called the President, who shall take precedence over all other persons in the state. The President is actually a sort of a hierarchy, kind of a chieftain. And I know of no other provision in Ireland, in the Constitution, which elevates anyone above the ordinary citizen, but the exception is the President, who is that wee bit above. A wee bit. You have to kind of bow your hat, you know, that's the thing. Well, anyway, I have no problem with that, to tell you the truth. So it says here, who shall take precedence over all other persons in the state, and who shall exercise and perform the powers and functions conferred on the President by this Constitution and by law. I tell you one thing, it's straight talking enough. Two, the President shall be elected by direct vote of the people. Fair enough. Every citizen who has a right to vote at an election for members of Dáil Éireann shall have a right to vote for the President in the election. The voting shall be by secret ballot and on a system of proportional representation by means of a single transferable vote. The President shall hold office for 7 years from the date upon which he enters upon the office, unless before the expiration of that period he dies, resigns, or is removed from office, or becomes permanently incapacitated, such incapacity being established to the satisfaction of the Supreme Court, consisting of not less than 5 judges. So if you want to get him out, as they call it in America, you have to have at least 5 judges on the Supreme Court agree to it. A very sensible precaution. A person who holds or has held the office of President shall be eligible for re-election for that office, but only once. President Higgins cannot stand again. An election for the office of President shall be held not later than and not earlier than the 60th day before the date of the expiration of the term of office of every President, but in the event of the removal from office of the President or of his death, resignation, or permanent incapacitation established by the aforesaid, whether occurring before or after he enters upon the office, an election for the office of the President shall be held within 60 days of such event. No problem there. Every citizen who has reached his 35th year of age shall be eligible to the office of President. So they do accept that too young a person would not be a good idea, and I think that's in the American Constitution as well. Every candidate for election, not a farmer. A farmer. These glasses, I must get them wiped. Every candidate for election, not a former or retiring president, must be nominated by not less than 20 persons, each of whom is at the time a member of one of the houses of the Oireachtas. That's the Dáil and Senate. 20 persons will get you over the line. Next thing. By the council of not less than 4 administrative counties, including county boroughs as defined by law. So, by the council not less than 4 administrative counties, including county boroughs. So in Dublin, the counties divided up into areas where you have Cavan County Council, Monaghan County Council, but in Dublin and certain other areas, it's divided up into sections according to the class structure there. Like, for example, Dunleary passed a motion yesterday that they won't nominate anybody. But then up in Findlas, everything goes. I'm only joking, yeah. Right. But the boroughs are included. So council boroughs, standard. Now, the first thing to remember is you can have the Oireachtas, the Senate and the TDs, or you can have the county boroughs. And we'll read it again so that you know exactly what it is. Not less than 20 persons, each of whom is at the time a member of the houses of the Oireachtas. By the councils of not less than 4 administrative counties, including county boroughs, as defined by law. Okay, no person and no such council shall be entitled to subscribe to the nomination of more than one candidate in respect of the same person. Now I'll read that again. You notice the difference in me and other mediums. If I don't fully understand it, I don't expect you to understand it. No person and no such council shall be entitled to subscribe. Hope it's not subscribed to my channel. Subscribe to the nomination of more than one candidate in respect of the same election. Now, do you see that? No person and no such council. So, no TD or senator and no such shall be entitled to subscribe to the nomination of more than one candidate in respect of the same election. Now, that means that each individual person, whether he be a councillor or a TD or senator, is entitled to subscribe to the nomination of more than one candidate. That's an important point. I'll read it again. No person and no such council shall be entitled to subscribe to the nomination of more than one candidate in respect of the same election. Former or retiring presidents may become candidates on their own nomination. So if the president can run, if he's done his 7 years and he wants to run again, he can become a candidate on his own nomination without going through any process. Fair enough, he's already got elected, he's already in there, he can nominate himself. Former or retiring presidents may become candidates on their own nomination. Fair enough. Where only one candidate is nominated for the office of president, it shall not be necessary to proceed to a ballot for his election. If there's only one candidate going forward, you don't need election at all. Common sense. These boys weren't so slow now. That whole De Valera fella had a big say in this constitution. Subject to the provisions of this article, elections for the office of president shall be regulated by law. Yeah. The president shall not be a member of either houses of the Oireachtas. The president shall not be a member of either house of the Oireachtas. So the president can't be a TD or senator. If a member of either house of the Oireachtas be elected president, he shall be deemed to have vacated his seat in that house. So if he's elected president and he's a TD, he has to vacate it. Fair enough. That's very simple. The president shall not hold any office or position of emolument That's one queer speech. Oh, don't be talking about that down at the mart. You know, emolument. Emolument. That's a kind of paint. It's water based. I think. Wait now, check it again. Wait now, I wonder what wait it. Emulsion. Oh, emulsion. Sorry. An emulsion. That's a paint. No, emolument. Emolument. Payment for an office or employment. Compensation. The profit arising from office employment, labour gain, compensation, or advantage. Perquisite. There's another queer speak. Perquisites. Perquisites. Fees or salary. Anyway, I think we'll go by the first one, payment for any office. Now, employment. What that means then is that the president cannot receive any pay. Now, I presume if he had a pension, like if he was a retired teacher or guard, he could still draw his pension, subject to tax. But he can't be working. He couldn't, if he was a teacher, he'd have to give up his or cancel his salary. I don't exactly know, but he can't be employed, and he can't get a job selling VPNs for the computer or selling cars. He can't be selling cars, and this is a problem for me going up. I want to put cattle on the Phoenix Park. Now, could you be a farmer? How would that go? Well, you see, it's not a pay. You're self-employed. I presume if you had a business and you're self-employed, you could still continue. It's not justified. I wouldn't blame the writers of the Constitution. They've got it fairly good. So now the president shall not hold any other office or position of annulment. The first president shall enter upon his office as soon as may be after his election, and every subsequent president shall enter on office on the day following the expiration of the term of office of his predecessor. So once Michael D. Higgins goes, the next man takes over, or woman, whoever it is. Fair enough. Or as soon as may be thereafter. That word, as soon as may be, it's a kind of a quasi-legal term, as soon as may be. In other words, due haste. Mightn't have to be the exact, or as soon as may be thereafter. So it's it gives them a little bit of time if he had the flu or something, you see. Good law. I like this kind of law. Or as soon as may be thereafter. In the event of his predecessor's removal from office, death or resignation or permanent incapacity, establishment as provided by Section 3 hereof, as soon as may be after the election. Anyway, he takes up position as soon as he can. That's the way he put it. As soon as he can. 8. The President shall enter upon his office by taking and subscribing publicly in the presence of members of both houses of the Oireachtas, or of judges of the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal, and of the High Court and other public personages, the following declaration. So he has to come before the houses, the judges of the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal and the High Court, and other public personages. What about a farm with cows? You'll be there to witness it. Well, I suppose it just means that you can't stop it because of somebody there. It doesn't they don't have to count everybody. So, for example, if the clerk of the Dáil happened to be present, you couldn't beat the nomination of the president or the declaration because there's an extra one, or someone brought in a child or something. That's fair enough. It's very good law. Very good law. So the judges know, and other public personages. But I don't think you'd ever win a case because somebody came in off the street and looked down. In fact, there's a good case for having ordinary people there as well. It's fairly well drafted now, fairly well drafted. Now, here's what he has to say. In the presence of Almighty God. Read that again. In the presence of Almighty God. that the Irish state pays homage to God, identical nearly to the American Constitution. They don't like that there. They want to take God out. In the presence of Almighty God, I do solemnly and sincerely promise and declare that I will maintain the Constitution of Ireland and uphold its laws. And President Higgins failed to do that, for he allowed the plans and the planning to go ahead without the compliance with Article 3.2 of the Strategic Environmental Assessment Directive. He should have referred that to the Supreme Court, and he didn't, because he's green. That I will fulfil my duties faithfully and conscientiously in accordance with the Constitution. When did he ever take a case to the Supreme Court to check the constitutionality of any law? I don't know of any case. A president should, in his term of 14 years, refer at least one piece of legislation, and some of that hate speech stuff should have been referred to the Supreme Court and not be leaving it to the citizen to take these cases. President Higgins failed, in my view, to do that. Now, faithfully and conscientiously, in accordance with the Constitution and the law, that I will dedicate my abilities to the service and welfare of the people of Ireland. May God direct and sustain me. That's what it says. I'll read it again. In the presence of Almighty God, I do solemnly and sincerely promise and declare that I will maintain the Constitution of Ireland and uphold its laws, and I will fulfil my duties faithfully and conscientiously in accordance with the Constitution and the law, and that I will dedicate my abilities to the service and welfare of the people of Ireland. May God direct and sustain me. And there's no provision that I can see for any variation of that. Again, De Valera was in America, and he used a lot of the American Constitution to formulate the Irish Constitution. The President shall not leave the state during his term of office, save with the consent of the government. Fair enough, he can't be just rambling off. You'll be here. And then if they're going to pass a bill, they need to know he's there. It's the same kind of in England too, with the Queen, with the King. All right, you see, in America there's a vice president, and only one can leave the country at a time. The president may be impeached for stated misbehaviour. The charge shall be preferred by either of the houses of the Oireachtas, subject to and in accordance with the provision of this section. A proposal to either house of the Oireachtas to prefer a charge against the President under this section shall not be entertained unless upon the notice of motion in writing signed by not less than 30 members of the House. So now, the proposal of the charge shall be preferred by either houses of the Oireachtas. So in other words, if they want to impeach him, if they want to put him out, you have to have the majority. I'll just read that again so you can make yourself out of it. The President may be impeached for stated misbehaviour. The charge shall be preferred by either House of the Oireachtas, subject to and in accordance with the provision of this section. A proposal to either House of the Oireachtas to prefer a charge against the President under this section shall not be entertained unless a notice of motion in writing signed by not less than 30 members of the House. Fair enough, that's it. No such proposal shall be adopted by either of the houses of the Oireachtas, save upon a resolution of the House supported by not less than 2/3 of the total membership thereof. 2/3 of the total membership thereof. When a charge has been preferred by either house of the Oireachtas, the other house shall investigate the charge and cause the charge to be investigated. So if the Dáil proposes to impeach him, the Senate must examine it. If the Senate proposes to impeach him, the Dáil must examine it. The President shall have the right to appear and to be represented at the investigation of the charge. If, as a result of the investigation, a resolution be passed supported by not less than 2/3 of the total membership of the House of the Oireachtas, and by which the charge was investigated or caused to be investigated, declaring that the charge preferred against the President not be sustained, and that the misbehaviour or charge was such as to render him unfit to continue in office, such a resolution shall operate to remove the president from office. So 2/3 say that he's unfit. But there is also a piece there about the judges having a say. We don't need to go in there. It's so remote, folks. It's so remote. The president shall have an official residence in or near the city of Dublin. And that's Oris an Uachtaráin. And that's my problem standing, folks. I'd like to put cattle on it, out around there. But they mightn't like it and be around onto the road. Maybe someone run into one of the cows with a car or something. I don't know. It's really a problem, that's why I won't run. So anyway, now the president shall have a residence near the city of Dublin. The president shall receive such emoluments, that's payments, etc., and allowances as are determined by law. The emoluments and allowances of the president shall not be diminished during his term of office. Fair enough. If anyone of my subscribers wants to find out what is the Gaelic word, the Irish word for emoluments, that'd be a good one. What is it? I am not going to look now. Right, Article 13. The President shall, on the nomination of Dáil Éireann, appoint a Taoiseach, that is, the head of the government or the Prime Minister. So that's the same as in Britain, really. When the election takes place, it's the President chooses the nomination on the recommendation of the Dáil. Shall, on nomination of a Taoiseach. Now, the President shall, on the nomination of Dáil Éireann, appoint a Taoiseach. The President shall, on the nomination of the Taoiseach, with the previous approval of the Dáil, appoint the members of the government. Fair enough. The President shall, on the advice of the Taoiseach, accept the resignation or termination of the appointment of any member of the government. The Dáil Éireann shall be summoned and dissolved by the President on the advice of the Taoiseach. That's when it's coming up to an election, there's no majority or whatever, the President consults the Taoiseach and he can dissolve the Dáil. The President may, in his absolute discretion, refuse to dissolve the Dáil on the advice of the Taoiseach, who has ceased to retain the support of the majority of the Dáil. So even the Taoiseach hasn't the support of the majority, the President can still keep things going. That's to avoid just repeated elections. The President may at any time, after consultation with the Council of State, convene a meeting of either or both houses of the Oireachtas. He may do that. He never did it. And this is why I am against President Higgins. He never ensured that European law applied properly in Ireland. Every bill passed or deemed to have been passed by both houses of the Oireachtas shall require the signature of the President to be enacted. So he has to bring it into law. The President shall promulgate every law made by the Oireachtas. The President shall promulgate every law made by the Oireachtas. Now, promulgate has nothing to do with the gate. It means he shall pronounce it, proclaim it. A new law in. Promulgate. Now, the supreme command of the Defence Forces is hereby vested in the President. So he's the overall commander-in-chief. Not a funny one. So is the President of America. But then the Queen is also in England. That's to make sure that the forces of the state are under democratic control. Now, all commissioned officers have to receive their commission from the President. Did you know that? So if you're joined as a second lieutenant and you want to become, and they decide to promote you, it has to come from the President. If you're a captain and you want to get promoted, it's the President promotes you. That is not the case in the Gardaí. I remember I was promoted to sergeant, but that wasn't a commission, you see. That's an NCO. But I'd still think the superintendent getting promoted to chief does not get a warrant from the President, whereas the Defence Forces do. The right of pardon and the power to commute or remit punishment imposed by any court exercising criminal jurisdiction is hereby vested in the President, but such power of commutation or remission may also be referred by law on other authorities. So that's the right to commute a sentence. He has that right, so has the President of America, but so can other parties as well. The President may, after consultation with the Council of State, communicate with the House of the Oireachtas by message or address on any matter of national or public importance. The President may, after consultation with the Council of State, address a message to the nation at any time on any matter. Every such message or address must, however, receive the approval of government. And that's what I say. It is an absolute disgrace that the entire population of Ireland can be replaced, and there's nothing in the Constitution to stop this mass migration. The President shall not be answerable to either House of the Oireachtas or any other court for the exercise or performance of his powers and functions of his office, or any other act done purporting to be done by him in the exercise and performance of his powers and functions. Now, there is provision both in the Irish Constitution and in the American Constitution where the President fails to do his job, where he just says, I'm not doing any more, I'm quitting, or I won't do this or I won't do that. There was some instance in America where the President went absent, they couldn't find him. And that's an impeachable offence. So he has to be on the job. He has to be on the job, and there's provision then if he fails to do that for the Oireachtas and the Senate and those to take action, and the Council of State to act, and they can act without him. In other words, if he's gone and can't be found or kidnapped, they can act. So we needn't go into that too much. There's no need to go into that. Now, that's the whole thing on 26 minutes. Have I made it clear to you now about the Constitution? I don't want to be any longer with it. How the President is appointed, what's needed, and if you have any questions, get on underneath here and ask them, and I'll try and solve them. So that's it, folks. I'm not giving much of an opinion there. That's just the Constitution. You know what has to happen. 20 members of the Oireachtas, that's the Dáil and Senate, can nominate him, and they can only nominate one, and then or the county councils, 4 county councils, and apparently they can only nominate one. So if anyone wants clarification on that, get back to me. There's no point in me being too exhaustive. I've given you the basic thing about it. Thank you very much. Bye.